Okay. And so I wanted to announce the book that we're doing. This is the last end from chapter 25 all the way through the end of the book of All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. A couple of trigger warnings. There is child SA, child unaliving, child abduction, and some suicide issues that they talk about. In case that bothers anybody, they can click off the video now. Otherwise, welcome. We're going to get into this. So the first question, like I always start, is does anybody have any favorite quote? I didn't know if anybody would. Just if anybody does, you can put it like let me know and I'll grab you. Yeah, I didn't even have this, and I'm a big quote girl, so I didn't have any. Stephanie, if you have any, you can just type it in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever you is easier. Um, and then let's go ahead and dive into the questions. Um, the first one being, okay, yeah, we're going to start with your guys' questions first. Melissa wanted to know if you were Chrissy, would you have also tried to hide what she thought Jace did? And I think that's such an important question. I think that is the caveat for the book. I'm going to tag on to that, my question. So if you were Chrissy, would you have done what she did for Jace because she thought Jace was the killer? And have you ever done anything like that for somebody? And if you haven't, is there somebody you would do something like that for? And we'll start with Aaron.
Um, no. I love my kids, but I feel like if I thought that one of them murdered the other, I feel like it's my job as the mother to get that child help. So I'm not they're I mean, they're not going to go to prison. It's a child, right? So what would they do? I don't really know exactly what they would do, but I know that I mean, they would probably need to go to therapy. They would probably need to see professionals. And I feel like her hiding it and just being resentful of him his whole life just completely ruined everything. I don't think that I would. I would want to get that child the help that it needed.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wouldn't.
I think you bring up a really good point. It destroyed his whole life regardless, you know? How about you, Karen? Oh, I'm sorry, Emily is next. Emily, how about you? Would you have done that? And if have you ever done anything like that for somebody? Maybe not to that extreme, but like a real big self-sacrificing thing that you wanted to do to help somebody that you like really pretty serious?
I I tend to be pretty self-sacrificing, but in that instance, I don't think I would. There have been a number of children though who have gone to prison um, for murder. If you look at, there's a few of them. The Bulger case in London, two 10-year-old boys actually went to prison. They were released and given new identities, but that was one they did abduction and
Can I
torture
ask,
and unalive a small child. Yeah.
was it like a criminal prison? Was it like a mental institution? Is it like a
I
juvenile
believe,
detention?
yeah, I believe they went to juvenile detention and then went into like an adult prison. Mary Bell was another one who did as well because she was 10. One of the, I don't know if I would say advantage, is being true crime, and having a lot of knowledge of that. It would be a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, However, even if it was my own child, I would still want them to, like Aaron said, get the help that they would need in those cases. Unfortunately, the justice system in the US doesn't always have the ability to support that mental health need unless you are deemed actually like mentally insane. There are like prison hospitals that they would send them to, right, for the criminally insane. But there are a lot of cases in our current justice system where they just don't quite meet that requirement. So that would be a hard thing as a parent, I think, to or for anybody to that I'm close to cover for them. I think that the desire as a parent would be there, but at the same time, her thought was that he murdered his own sister. So you'd have to have that battle between protecting your child and then having the person you think is responsible be suffering the consequences of taking your other child from you. So I think that one thing that the author has done well is kind of conveying that battle within the self
That
between those
struggle.
two. But I don't think I would be able to cover it for him. No.
Well, thank you so much for that information. I wasn't sure what the implications would be for somebody in that particular because he was so young. Yeah, so that's interesting and enlightening. Thank you. As always, you always have a plethora of factoids for us, so I appreciate that. Welcome, Udi and Robin. It's so beautiful to see you guys tonight. So happy you're here. We're just we asked everybody if they had a favorite quote. Nobody did, and we're on the first question, which was, would you do which was Melissa's question, would you do what Chrissy did for Jace? And if you haven't done something like that or quite that extreme, is there anything that you've done that was super self-sacrificing like that for your child or somebody that you love? And would you ever do it? And we'll go on to Karen.
Okay. I don't think I could cover it up. Um, I'm sure the instinct would be there to help. Um, but I think, like in this case, in this book, I think that if Chrissy had talked to Jace sooner, um, about the situation, I know she probably would have doubted at that point because she saw Jace right there in front of January. She would have doubted he was telling the truth. But maybe the truth could have come out sooner than just covering it up for him.
Yeah, watching last week's video, that was Jameson's major frustration.
Right.
Jameson had said, like, why didn't Chrissy, like, why was this left for so long, you know? And now after finishing the book, it's like, wow, that is a really big point. Jameson, how about you? I know you're very ride or die like me. So I just wonder, in your position, have you ever done that for somebody? Would you do what she did?
I don't know that I would have gone to the lengths that she did. Like, I don't know that I would have moved the body and made it look like a cover up. I probably would have called the cops and said, I don't know what happened. I don't know if somebody broke, like, I don't know. But the only reason I think that maybe I would have is that this 6-year-old child, and there's a difference between a 6-year-old child and like a 12 or a 15 or a 17-year-old child. At 6 years old, I don't want my child to have to carry that stigma the rest of his life for something that, like, she didn't know. Maybe it was an accident. She didn't ask. And that's what's bugged me through this whole book. So I think if I were there, I would have probably at least partially covered this up and then sat him down and said, we're going to go and we're going to talk to some people and we're going to figure out what happened. Like, I wouldn't have just like covered it up and pretended it never happened. Like, I would have gotten my kid the help that he needed. And then through that process, obviously would have found out that, I mean, if she had done that, she may still be alive.
Yeah,
Like,
very, very good point. Yeah. Nikki, how about you? First, how are you and the kiddo feeling? I know you've been hit with the flu real bad.
It's trying to make a comeback again. So we're currently sanitizing dishes and washing the house. So you're going to see my camera all over the place during this meeting.
That's okay. You do whatever you've got to do.
No, we're hanging in there.
I'm so glad you're okay. Is Stella okay? The dog?
Darla, yeah.
Starla.
Yeah, she's good.
Starla's okay.
She will not.
And you guys are battling.
My side.
Yeah, Nikki's had a really rough 2 weeks. Like bad. So tell me more about your opinion on, would you have done what she did? And if not, is there anybody in your life that you would do something like that for or have done something?
I've put a lot of thought into this, and it's one of those situations where it's almost you have to be in it and you won't really know how you react until it happens. Because like I could sit here and say day and night that I would protect my child through everything, but if I were to really truly know that she's done something, part of me, yes, I would want to protect her, but I would also, like everybody else has said, I would want to get her the help that she would need. And just by hiding it and pretending like it never happened isn't going to accomplish that.
Right.
So it's really, really difficult to say if I would absolutely do what Chrissy did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's a really
The
hard
second part of that
question.
question, I don't remember.
You answered it. Is there anybody that you would do that for?
Okay.
Like
Oh, that's so
autopilot would go on, and you'd be like, I have to protect them immediately, and I don't care what extreme I'll go to.
right.
Yeah. Melody, how about you? I know did Melody just disappear? Melody went.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Somebody left and the box has changed. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I think Karen left. Karen's who's left. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Back to your question. Would you do it or what she did or?
Um, like Nikki said, I don't think you'd really know until you're in that position. But I do have kind of a question about this, especially for people that have kids. So she covered that up because Jace was her only remaining child. Do you think she would have acted differently had she had maybe 3 or 4 children? Because then she would have needed to protect those kids from the one that she thought just killed one of her children. So would that make a difference in how people would handle the situation? I mean, like I have cats, so I don't know. I mean, I would definitely do that for family members. There's some dear friends of mine. I really think like I would help them hide a body, and it's okay.
I'm so glad you're saying that because I'm thinking, my God, I am such a sociopath. I'm always way out here on left field from you guys. But I'm thinking, yeah, if it was the right person in the right scenario, yeah, I would do everything I could to protect them and hide the body. I don't have children.
Yeah.
But I did help raise my cousin Mary. I think you guys probably have seen, she's like a big part of my life. I would do anything for her. I would take a bullet for her. I'd bury a body for her, whatever it took. However, if she killed my goddaughter, that'd be a little bit different. You know what I mean? That's I think the real big part here is like, how do you also, I think we're realizing her protecting her probably did more damage. So, but yeah, I was right there with you. I thought, well, yeah, I would do it. My gut instinct would be, of course, I'm going to protect my. Good evening, Cicely. How are you? It's so wonderful to see you. We are going over our favorite quotes, if we have any, and also, would you do what Chrissy did to save Jace? And if not, is there anything you've ever done like that in your life for anybody, or who would that be? Oh, I love this question. Yeah, I'm definitely excited to hear.
If I thought one of my children, because I have 2 kids, right? If I thought one of them killed the other one, they would need help that they wouldn't be able to get if they weren't able to tell anybody what happened. And so, no, if they kill literally anybody else, yeah, absolutely. I got a tarp, I got a trunk, like whatever.
We'll do what we gotta do. Yeah.
Right. But and then I would feel bad about it later. But my kids are my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's so convoluted. There's so many implications that happen after, but I think in a gut instinct reaction, I do think maybe I would. And like Jameson, you weren't here for it, but Jameson had said like they would feel bad after and like maybe try to go get them help, like sit them down and say, we need to go talk to someone type of thing. Like maybe do it instinctively and then retract a little.
If she had
Melissa, go ahead.
gotten him help, and like if she had responded differently, it would have changed the whole trajectory of everything.
I have Yeah, I think there's something very, very wrong with Chrissy if she's like a pathological liar at this point, and damaged so many lives.
Right.
Like just this is mind blowing. It's like she spun too many webs, you know? Melissa, how about you?
I'm on the same page as Jameson. I think I would to some extent. Like, oh, maybe it was an accident. She fell down the stairs, kind of thing, and then have a conversation with Jace afterwards and still get him the help, but not so much to where like he would go to jail. So maybe cover up ish, cover up light, not full.
Right.
Like she went pretty hard. Like she dumped the body in a ditch. Like she went 100. I would be like, all right,
All in, right? Although let's give her the benefit of the doubt. So she was like valuing like candy, and she was on sleep meds. So like I don't know if she was all cognitively there in the middle of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like we just cover it just a little.
Just a little sprinkle.
Little.
But I do think she has a point. If I had other children, then wouldn't I want to protect my other kiddos and worrying like, is he gonna also murder them as well?
Yeah.
But it could have been solved by asking him what happened. I mean, she immediately went into, and maybe it was the combination of the drugs, but she just immediately went into like, he murdered her. I need to dump this body. No conversation was had.
So, I mean, I know he was weird. I know he was an unusual child. I feel like that's a huge thing to presume.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the meds really took part in this. Or there's something about her that we don't know, you know. Udi, good evening. What babies do we have first?
We've got Timu, Yzma, Aurora, and then Big Mama's back there.
Okay, Aurora comes out for book club, and I just love it. She's so pretty.
She gave me a good fright last weekend. She, her and Yzma both got out. I don't know how. I think my husband left the cage open.
It's his
Just
fault.
kidding. It was me.
I blame everything on Gwen.
But
It's okay.
she came to my bed and woke us up, like woke me up. She was crawling up my arm, and I'm like,
What is that?
I'm like, Rat, why are you out? Huh?
Oh my
And,
God, that's
yeah,
crazy. So tell me your feelings on this.
I feel that she could have done a lot more to help Jace.
Mhm.
I don't think that it should have taken as long as it did. Especially like if I were a mom, that's the first thing I would do. Like that kid needs help. But she didn't even know his story. She didn't even ask him. She just assumed.
Right?
And I don't know if I could do that. But if he didn't do it, hell yeah, I'll help cover it up. Let's go.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, I got the land, I got the equipment.
I just would do anything for anybody that was in a bad situation and like that I felt like was in some way innocent initially. Yeah, absolutely. Robin, how about you?
It's all the guy's story.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Heather. Good evening. I'm so sorry your little face just popped up. I'm so sorry. I'll catch up in just 1 second. Hi. Go ahead, Robin.
So I have so many issues with this, like whole big scenario. And then on the flip side of that, I also have like so many excuses for Chrissy. So I feel like I'm like in two minds about this whole thing, because when I think of like, okay, so I have 3 kids. So if one of my children, I thought that, or it looked like one of my children had murdered another one. So I don't know exactly what I do, but I also have to remember that I am in my 40s with 3 small children, whereas Chrissy had these kids when she was 18.
Oh, wow.
And so you have to remember, like, and I feel like somebody said on here that they had their children very young as well, but I can't remember who it was. But like having kids at 18, 19 is very different than having kids in your 30s or 40s. And so you like Chrissy does not have any of that life experience to say, like, the first thing I would have done is I would have said what happened. Like that would have been my initial like, oh my God, what happened? And like, even though Jason's only 6, regardless of what he said to me, I feel like at that point he's gonna say, he's a 6-year-old, he's gonna say, like, she was here, or like he's not gonna say that, he's not gonna admit that he did anything because he didn't do anything. Also, this whole book, I was like, I feel like this was an accident. I feel like she's at the bottom of the basement stairs. Like as soon as we find that she's not actually was not ever in the dish, so she was at the bottom of the stairs, I'm like, is no one gonna go? Maybe she fell down the stairs and hit her head. Like
Right.
the entire book was like making me so frustrated with like, why does no one say? And then you do find out, well, it was kind of an accident. It was an accident that it was her, but like, yeah, I'm just like, I'm so like, yes, that is so frustrating to me. So that was my first thing. Then my second thing was, I think you also have to remember that this murder happened in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And so back then, very different than now. Whereas, like, if you think one of your children has an issue, like, we're talking about it. We're on social media about it. We're Googling about it. We're asking pediatricians and specialists and da 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 da. Whereas in 1994, that was not the case. If you thought that your child had something going on, chances were you were shh about it. And they talk about that also in the thing, like how Billy's like, well, people are already going to talk about us about this. So I'm sure that she felt like she couldn't address it until much later, I think, when she started talking to Jody. So that was not really me answering the question at all, but like, so there are definitely some people in my life that I would definitely dispose of a body for or with, absolutely. And I think that if one of my kids came to me and said this happened and it was an accident, but it's, I would very much look at it and go, okay, does it look like an accident or does it look like you're going to get in trouble? And if it looks like you're going to get in trouble, I'm going to go into Big Mama Bear mode and I'm going to figure it out. And I would probably do some very similar things to what Chrissy did. I'm not 100% sure that I could put my 6-year-old in a ditch, but like, I would definitely do something to take it off of my other kid. Yeah. But again, that would be if I knew that it wasn't. But I don't think at this point I could think that any of my kids could be capable of killing each other. Sometimes I feel like they want to kill each other, but I don't think that they're going to succeed or maliciously do it.
You made 2 really good points. 1994 things were really different. You're right. And also, she presumed guilt on him instantaneously. It wasn't, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. It wasn't, she didn't think this could have been an accident. She looked at him and thought immediately that he did it. Which is just what kind
blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really great points. Really great points.
Yeah.
Heather, good evening. It's so good to see you. I wanted to start with the last time we saw you, you told us that you were going to be going to the neurologist.
Yes.
How was your appointment?
The appointment was fine. Well, I've seen 3 neurologists since then. The first one was very dismissive, like, oh, it's because you take those Topamax. So I don't take Topamax anymore. And the other 2 were like, oh, wow, yeah, no, this is a serious thing that we should investigate before we just blow you off. So lots and lots and lots of blood tests, waiting for some to come back. But right now, potentially it's lupus, but like presenting in a really weird way. So like maybe not. I don't know.
Well, please keep us posted. You've been in my thoughts. And then I wanted to catch up. Wanted to ask if you thought, would you have done what Chrissy did for Jace? And if you wouldn't have, is there anything like that in your life that for someone you would do? Are you the type of person that would bury the body if you had to?
Yeah, I would definitely bury the body and like never tell a soul. I would actually be like pretty good at that. But obviously not for everybody because, you know, they got to be able to keep a secret too.
Do you blame her for what she did? Do you think she handled it incorrectly? Do you think?
I can't really blame her. I mean, I can't imagine what would go through your head
Right,
seeing your
right.
kid at the bottom of the stairs and thinking like that your other child did it. Like, yeah, like I don't know. Plus, again, 1994, and you know, you can't really Google like, what do
What
I
do I do?
do?
You don't want, okay, so everybody here, you don't want to Google that.
Well, yeah, but
If
you
that
can't
happens,
even call your bestie and be
yeah.
like, what?
Smash the phone, turn everything, everybody's listening all the time. Big Brother is here. We don't
Yeah.
do anything that can be traceable.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it would be different now with like, you know, Alexa listening to us or
Right?
whatever.
Yeah. We're burying the body. We're doing it, covertly. Stephanie,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, I know you're not feeling well. Are you able to talk?
Yeah, I can talk.
Okay. Would you have done what Chrissy did, or would you do that for somebody?
So, I don't think I could do that for anybody, to be honest. I'm very loyal, but I mean, unless I knew if it was an accident, I would have asked Jace. I would have been like, what happened? Did you do this on purpose? That's just the first thing that went through my mind too, like everybody else. I'm like, why wouldn't you just open up the communication there and get that? If I knew it was an accident, then yes, I would have spray painted the wall. I definitely would have done that. Maybe try to make it look like a break-in, but I could not dispose of a child's body. I couldn't do that. I
That's the
couldn't.
hardest part for me. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't.
It'd be very hard. I do want, is there anybody in your life you would do that for if you had to?
I don't know if I could or not.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I could, but I would not dispose of a body. That's one thing I would not do. That's just too far.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it completely, especially a child. Okay, so with Stephanie having to leave, I wanted to make two quick announcements really quickly. Cicely's book won the poll, and it is called Lamb, The Gospel According to Biff, Christ's Childhood Pow. This is like a huge rated book. Like anybody who's ever heard of it is like that book changed my life. I don't know. And I know a lot of us in here are either non-denominational, atheist, Wiccan, ominous. So it's going to be very fascinating to discuss this all with you. We're going to read to the end of, I believe, chapter 11. And then the other thing is, I went back and I watched both videos, and so many of you were right. There was a couple of things I thought were really interesting. For me was everybody had at least one theory. So Emily knew that Luke was connected from the very beginning. Cicely knew that Luke knew something from the beginning. I had a theory that the mom wrote stuff on the wall. Jameson and Emily and Karen and Melody all thought that Billy killed Chrissy. The only person from the very beginning that thought Billy killed January was Karen. And the only person that had anything to bring that nobody else did was Jameson connected that Luke was Dave. So those were the big MVPs. So we're going to do a little thing with just those four people, Karen, Melody, Jameson, and Emily. And then we're going to vote on MVP for those four. Just because you guys were this was a really hard one to predict. So anyway, I thought that was fun. And then we'll get going with more questions. So to dive in, because there's so many of us, and this is such a big question, how did you feel when you got to the epilogue, when you heard Billy's side of it? I want to know what emotions that brought up for everyone, because it's just so far from where we've just had such a journey. So we're going to start back with Stephanie.
So I think I texted you after I read the rest
You
of it.
did. You
I'm like,
said that
this,
extra book is bullshit.
yeah, it is bullshit. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just, I was so frustrated. I think she could have added more onto what happened with Margot at the end. That's where it frustrates me because I'm like, did she get killed? Did she, like, what happened?
Yeah, yeah, very frustrating. As I read the book, there were minor details. I was like, please hurry up, just get to the good stuff. And then at the end, I'm like, you rushed it. You it was very, very frustrating. Robin, how about you? What emotions did it bring up for you? What did you feel?
Okay, so again, let me just say, both my book club books in January ended with like, I'm like, what? What do you mean 99%? What? What? Like, what? What happened here? What happened to this person? I was so irritated because they both of them were like, oh, you just have to figure it out on your own. Like, so annoying.
Very.
I was I was furious. I was like, someone said that they threw the book, and I'm like, if it wasn't on my iPad, I would be throwing this right now. So I'm so mad. Like, also, it made me hate Billy so much. I was like, I'm so mad that like I felt sorry for him in the least. Like, he's such a not nice person. I was like, oh, Chrissy's a not nice person. And then I was like, so is Billy. They deserved each other. I was so mad.
Yeah. I'd like to tag on here before we get too far. So when he killed January, he thought he was killing Chrissy or harming Chrissy.
Yeah.
So he did well, the initial impact was an accident. The second one, not so much. He killed her. He chose to do that. But I wanted to ask you guys, and I'll let Robin answer, and I'll go back to Stephanie. Have you ever been brought to a rage like that where you started fantasizing of like, I'm gonna kill them? Like I'm starting to spin on how I'm going to do it. I'll let you answer, Robin.
I would not want to incriminate myself or anything, but like daily. Like,
Yeah.
like, listen, I have 3 young children. I fantasize daily. Daily.
Like, oh, I don't know if I could do that.
I also run a dance studio. I fantasize daily.
Yeah, yeah.
Daily.
Yeah, absolutely. I am sure you're so frustrated. That would be very, very hard. You need a good girls' night, adult night out.
Yeah. In like 4 more months. Like,
Stephanie, how about you? Have you ever been drove to a rage where you thought like, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, Z? I mean, of course you didn't, or maybe you did, but whatever. I'm not judging anybody. But have you ever thought it?
I've had thoughts, yeah, where I'm just so frustrated, but the thought itself isn't the harmful thing. It's like if you actually do it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I try to stay calm, but there are times where I'm just like, oh, I want to slap the shit out of somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Udi, how about you? So the first question being, how did it make you feel at the epilogue? And then the second one, have you ever been driven to a rage like that?
Billy's a piece of shit. If it wasn't on my Kindle, I would have threw it.
Yeah.
But I had to read it really fast because it was a library book. So I started Fourth Wing, and that upped me back up right afterwards. So I recommend it for a downer.
Oh, that's a good book. Thank you for the suggestion.
Oh, dude, it freaking grabbed me. I'm almost done with it, actually.
Oh, that's wonderful. So have you ever had rage like that?
Oh, yeah.
Really? You seem like such a pacifist.
No, hell no. My ex was a beater and very clingy, manipulative narcissist. And the man I'm with now heard me talking to him on the phone during one of our disagreements, and he just looked at me like, remind me to never piss you off.
Oh my God. First, I'm so sorry. I've been there. So I know what that's like in multiple people in my life. But yes, that is definitely something that can drive you to that point. And rightfully so. You have the
Oh yeah.
right to protect yourself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was pretty bad. But yeah, no, I can get I'm a Cancer. I, that's all I gotta say.
Nikki, how about you? What did you think of Billy's epilogue? Do you wish it was from Chrissy or somebody else? And then have you ever been driven to that kind of rage?
So the epilogue, again, just like with everybody else, if it wasn't on my Kindle, I would have thrown the book. Like, because at first I felt so bad for Billy, like, oh my God, what did he just do? But then he offed her the second time, and I'm just like, what the hell? And like, I know I've been driven to that rage before from my ex, so I know what it feels like, but I don't think I could ever go through that rage with a child. Like that rage did not make sense when it came to a child.
Right.
That was hard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Melissa, how about you? How did you feel about him? What you learned? Was that frustrating for you? And then have you ever had rage like that?
It was definitely frustrating, the ending, but I think she did a really great job with writing Billy because you end up really liking him for most of the book and sympathizing with him and looking at everything that he's lost and kind of enjoy him. So she wrote him really well. And then it just kind of happened that he was the murderer and you weren't expecting that. So I think she did a great job with that. But I was very frustrated by the ending. I feel bad for Uncle Luke. You know,
Mhm.
now he's alone. He doesn't have his caregiver anymore. Because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure she's, he unalived her, so she couldn't tell his secret. But yeah, I mean, not towards people for rage. I'm more of a rage room break stuff kind of person when I get angry.
Yeah. That's why
Doesn't
they're
happen
there.
very often. I think maybe once or twice in the 10 years my wife and I have been together that she's kind of left a room because I've needed to throw like a mug or something. But that's about it. I wouldn't hurt anyone physically, but stuff, that's replaceable.
Right, right. Thank you for sharing though. Now we're going to get into some folks who thought Billy was a piece of shit from day one. And that's Melody, Karen, Jameson, and Emily. So I kind of felt bad for him too. I was really, empathizing. I'm real curious once we get to those folks. Melody, tell us how you felt. Like, yeah, did you feel vindicated?
I guess, I didn't like Billy throughout the book. I was mad at the end of the book because I thought it was a crappy ending. Like everybody's mad because of Billy doing this, but like I thought it was really sloppy writing. Like somebody in our chat, I think it was Heather, mentioned that it seemed like the publisher changed the date on her and she just had to end the book.
Oh,
And
wow,
it
I missed
just
that. Thank you for
I,
saying that, Heather. Thank you.
I don't know. I just thought it was a terrible ending. And I didn't care. Like I should care because it's child murder. It was not her fault. That's, obviously, but like, I didn't care enough about the characters to like
Yeah.
give a shit that it was Billy that did it, or, I don't know. I think the only one that would have like hurt me would have been Luke. Just, I had not an issue, but like I was drawn to his character because I had a grandmother that died of Alzheimer's. And so, like seeing those scenes were difficult.
Me too.
And I would have hated to have found out that it was him. But just because, he's going through something like that doesn't make you not a bad person to begin with.
Yeah.
But Billy, didn't really care.
Your point of view is very interesting. When I watched back from the very beginning, it was all four of you who didn't really like the writing style. Who thought the book was kind of like mimicking other things. It was poor writing. All four of you had that opinion, and all four of you were right about. I'm like, did they read ahead? How did they know? I had no idea. I'm like, these, and Gwen, my wife, brought up a really good point. They know Jameson well, and it's like, okay, Jameson reads Stephen King all the time. That's like a really developed writer, like maybe this is a skill set people develop. I was blindsided. So, but thank you so much for your sticking with it.
Wait, I have a question for you too, because you mentioned, I think in the first meeting, that you had read somewhere that the comparison to the JonBenet Ramsey case
Yes.
was intentional.
Yes.
And I don't understand why.
Apparently, and the way that Margot was obsessed with January.
Yeah.
Oh God, Ashley Flowers is in her 40s. And so when the case happened, it hit her really hard. She was kind of like struck by it and obsessed with it, and she became obsessed with true crime because of that. And so like her whole entire life was impacted by that case. It's like Jameson had called it like the JonBenet, like your white whale or something. It was something like that. Like that was like that one case that you would love to know. That was similar to Ashley Flowers. So what she wanted to do was mimic a character who had been so impacted by a death at a young age that they became obsessed with the case. So that every case that they solved, they went back to that original case. However, I really think she could have done it better. I gave this book the benefit of the doubt right from the start. You guys know that. Like I tried, but yeah, I did read that on her. You guys can find it on Crime Junkie's website. She talks, I think this is her only book, but she does write a lot of things for her blog, and podcast. Yeah. Karen, how about you? Also, she is a friend of Delana who's in book club. So if you guys want to tag her and ask any questions, she might be able to get that over to Ashley. Karen, how about you?
Well, just a note, Ashley Flowers does have another book coming out this year. And I think it's another kind of true crime.
It would be.
Novel that she's writing. But I think I figured I did not like Billy from the start either. I thought he was fishy. And I think going back to like the JonBenet Ramsey case, the ending felt to me like Ashley was projecting what her feelings were about the case and who she thought did the murder in the JonBenet Ramsey case. I think intentionally she made the ending very vague about what happened with Margot and Billy and Luke and everything like that. And I feel that there are some books that it's really good to leave on a cliffhanger, but I did not feel this book was good to leave on a cliffhanger. Like, we really wanted to wrap up how the situation played out, because that frustrated me, because I was like, it's crazy to leave a cliffhanger when at the Margot is like, does she get killed by Billy? Does she not? Does anybody find out that Billy was the murderer?
So much.
And obviously in Billy's case, there was a form of rage that just came out at him.
Have you had that kind of rage?
Yes, I have. I have not acted on it, but I certainly wanted to. I will say the most recent one, and I'll even share this with you guys, is that I have a 2.5-year-old grandson. And when he was 2 months old, his father broke his leg. And we ended up we had him full custody from the time he was 2 months old until he was about 15 months old. And his dad went to jail, not for long enough, and is now back and with his child, and we have partial custody of him. So, there were plenty of times I wanted to break his bones. And, I had so many people offer to figure out, to make sure, he felt the same pain.
Oh God, that's just terrible.
And there was a lot of rage between him and um my daughter.
Yeah.
So there was and now she's married to him, and you know, I've had to just like let go a lot of his feelings. So I just
Oh, Karen, that's very difficult. I am so, so sorry. Thank you for sharing that with us. That is enough to send somebody into a rage. I think you guys all know that I was sexually abused from 6 months to 6 years old. And when I told by my biological father, and when I told my grandfather at 6 years old, he was a Marine. He fought in the Korean War, and he went to my dad's house and broke his neck. He tried to kill, I mean, he intended to kill him in the front yard. My dad survived. He went to prison, but he lost his vision from it, went blind permanently from it. So children are something that push people to the point of like not being able to, draw a line. So I'm so sorry that that happened. It's terrible. It's traumatic for everybody. I think it may have hurt him more than it did me because of the way that it was bad for him, real bad. I don't think he ever got over it. So I'm so sorry that happened to you and to your grandson. I'm just glad that he has you because it changed my whole life having my grandparents, I would be on a totally different trajectory. So that's wonderful of you. Jameson, lay it on us because I know that you've been pushed to rage. You told me once I was dabbing into an abusive relationship and you said, don't make me kill this girl. Don't make me put her in my backyard. And so I know that. And also I want to know the ending, what you felt.
The rage thing it's funny. I'm surprisingly calm. I don't really lose my temper like that, but I always say, like, you start out watching Snapped and you're like, how do you do that? And then like at the point that I know that I have to stop watching Snapped is when I'm like, oh yeah, he was kind of a dick. Okay, it's time to turn this off and watch another thing for the day. I was not mad at the end of the book that Billy was the killer, like that Billy did this. I was mad that, first of all, I'm not as optimistic as you all. I think Margot's dead. Like, if she hadn't been dead, she would have told us. She's in the basement. She's not coming out. Like, because she knows what happened. So like in my head, I don't know. I was really mad. I was like, you can't give me this whole thing and then kill her like that. Like, why would you do that? So that's why I was mad. But I was also mad on like so many levels of if Chrissy had just called the cops in the first place, they would have known it was somebody in that house. She had her baby blanket in her hand. Like, if she had just called the cops instead of like doing all of this convoluted bullshit. Like,
Right.
I just felt like it was a really terribly written book. And that made me mad. That like,
So I
I'm
know
like,
you love
I
horror.
could have written this better.
Right. I know that's what Emily's thinking. I think if you study horror, the one big thing about a really good horror movie or horror book is the ending leaves you with a feeling of satisfaction. And this one just left us with like complete, it mind blows you, but you're satisfied. This one was just like, what? This is the feeling of unknown.
I mean, I can get with the horror movies where hey, everybody fucking dies. Like, that's the thing. I like there's more than one movie. Like, since Rob Zombie, that's like they do that now. Like, everybody dies.
Right.
But everybody died, and I guess I can see it from the aspect of there's this monster in this small town and he's still there because no one knows now.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't well done and it made me angry. Like,
Yeah.
that's not I just like the monster has to be bigger than some man who's just a piece of shit psycho. Like, that makes me mad.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
it's got to be bigger than that for everybody to die for me. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Heather, how about you? How did you feel at the end of the book? Were you frustrated and have you been pushed to that point of rage?
Yes, I have been pushed to that point of rage. Somebody mentioned that they were a Cancer. I'm a Virgo, so I will carefully plot your demise and be very quiet about it. But yeah, I'm gonna bring you down. And yeah, I just was not happy with the end of the book. I felt like the first 2/3 of the book were like written by a different person than the last like third of the book, almost.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, wow, I've been thinking about writing a book, but apparently it's pretty easy. And like I don't
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like this is going to get a really low star from all of us on a rating scale, unfortunately. I held with it, Heather, in the hopes that it would get better, but it just got worse.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Emily, I'm really excited to hear your point of view, considering you are a writer. And you've been mad about the book since the day you picked it up.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
you're feeling, I told you so, I told you.
It infuriated me. I like I said from the start, I knew Billy killed Chrissy, and I figured he somehow killed January. It was very predictable, extremely predictable. So the ending was not surprising, and it was infuriating, largely because an epilogue, typically the point of the epilogue is to kind of fill in that last little bit that the cliffhanger gave you, right? This did not do that at all. Writing a book, writing your first draft is the easy part, and it's still hard as hell to kind of keep that thought process going. So there are a lot of things, and I'm usually very, very cautious when I do reviews, especially as a writer myself, with my stuff out there. But I only gave it 2 stars. That is pretty darn low for me. Typically, I don't go quite that low. Usually I'm at a 3, and I can say good things and bad things about stuff. But yeah, the epilogue did not do anything to resolve anything. We already knew what we were told in the epilogue as a reader. So we already knew Billy killed her.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't Chrissy and it wasn't Jace
or Elliot, yeah.
Right. We know it wasn't Elliot. Then we already know these things. So the epilogue didn't serve the purpose of an epilogue. So that was infuriating, and that is usually just a craft thing, yes, that you kind of learn as you go. But I feel like an avid reader knows that. So I don't really feel like you have to be a writer to know that piece. There was a lot of potential that she could have done with the book to really flesh out characters a little bit more and make us care.
Yeah.
So like, everybody's like, I wanted to care and I didn't care. It's because you have the bones of these characters, and you're right at that point that you're starting to kind of connect with them. She loses you, because she's moved on to the next perspective and the next time jump, rather than really fleshing out those chapters and letting you love those characters. So you never really bond with them.
Right.
So that was really, really frustrating. The other thing, like I said from the beginning, the reason why it frustrated me so much is just because this does not to me feel inspired by the JonBenet Ramsey case. I was 18 in 1996. Billy, we're the same age. I will be 47 in July. I'm a Cancer too. And I remember all the details. These are not parallels. These are, I took that story and that case exactly, and I changed just enough to be able to say, oh, no. It's inspired.
Right.
It's inspired by. So it feels really lazy.
It does. I'm so sorry. I just watched the video too.
Yeah.
I think it might have been you or Melody or Jameson that said that she's been accused of plagiarism before. Was it you, Melody? Was it one of you said
Yeah, Melody pointed it out.
yeah, you pulled it up online. And I think you were right. Your gut instinct from the very beginning, especially with how weak the book ended, I think you were right about like it wasn't an inspirational, it was more of like a mimicking of it.
Yeah, it was more like taking this is the case and this is what I think happened. And so this is my theory on the case. And so I'm going to try and tell it from this perspective of somebody else. Whereas if she had just said, that's what I'm going to do, and then didn't try to make it different, she had just taken the JonBenet Ramsey case and said, this is inspired by this case. This is my possible theory of fictional telling of what may have happened. If she had done that, I think it would have been a much stronger read.
Let me ask you, you're very passionate. Have you ever been driven to rage like that?
I'm scary quiet when I am to that point. Without going into too much details, my ex-husband was a narcissist and was abusive. So my way of handling it, because I could 100% have killed him for the things that he did, not just to me. Instead, I write stories. So, like I said in the chat, there's one I have on Vocal called Run, and it's about a woman who is abused. And she kills her abusive husband and takes off with his body in the trunk and hides it. She disposes of his body. And I'm not ruining anything for anybody who wants to go and read it. That that from the very beginning. From the very beginning. And when I wrote the story, when I workshopped it, the people I workshopped it with were like, well, you just told us that he's in the trunk. So, and I'm like, yeah, I did from the get-go. I know it's a ballsy choice, but I didn't want that to be the thing. So so that's what I do. I write those things that way. I write a lot of my own experiences, and I think a lot of writers do. So in Ashley's case, she's writing her obsession. So her obsession is true crime. So my guess is this next book, which I haven't heard much about and I didn't really look into it too much. My guess is it's also going to be probably inspired by a case that has fascinated her because her podcast is all true crime. And hopefully, her craft will continue to grow and she'll be a little bit better with the execution, since it seems like everybody the execution was what fell short for them.
I think you brought up a really good point that I've heard Erin say in her comments and in what she said in the meetings, is that there was so much hopping. You had said she hopped so fast from character to character that you couldn't really bond with them. And Melody even said, I just don't care. And Erin kept saying, well, I'm just so confused. She hasn't finished the thought for this particular instance, this person, and we're already moving on to someone else. And it just didn't feel closure. Also, I write song lyrics and Jameson writes poetry. And I think we all sort of release those feelings in that way, like you do your writing. So I was really curious. Cicely, how about you? I have a feeling that you do have some rage in there. And what did Billy's epilogue do for you? Did it make you mad, frustrated?
He's a DPFH, you know this one, a disgusting pig from hell. So the whole time he sucks. He's like a fake nice guy the whole time. Everybody knows these guys, and so it's not surprising, but it's obnoxious. And yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've worked really hard to be as not nice as I am today.
Yeah.
Genuinely gone to therapy. I take my medicine. I do all the things, do the breathing exercises.
Yeah,
I have not been in a fist fight in 12 years, I think.
Big props. Woohoo! That's great. That's great.
Yeah, but the last one I think was in a church, so it's just great.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
he deserved it.
Yeah, but you roll deep. you know, but if we need you, you're there.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Aaron, so I know that you hate confrontation. I also know, though, you are furiously loyal to your babies, and I have a feeling that a rage of 1,000 suns would come out for them.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've had rage before for sure. I'm like super nice, and I'm not just saying that like, oh, I'm such a nice person. I really am super nice and to like a fault.
Yeah.
So sometimes it bites me in the butt, but up until a point, like sometimes it just gets to the point where enough is enough and I just can't take it anymore. So I've been there for sure. But yeah, I also feel like the ending was super rushed. I was so confused. And like I mentioned in chat or in the like the Facebook messages, or the Facebook comments, there's so much that I'm like confused about still because there were like thoughts that she brought up throughout the book that I thought was foreshadowing, and maybe I just misunderstood it. So I was waiting for her to like bring that up again, or like, you know, give us some closure on like certain things that she didn't even mention again. Um, and even though like I didn't even realize I was in an epilogue either, and I was like going, you know, clicking my Kindle and next page, and it said acknowledgments, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? Acknowledgments? Like, where's the rest of the story? Like, what
Right?
happened? So I get it. But like some things that I'm still like I'm waiting for closure on still is like, why did she keep bringing up that I mean, or maybe it's just I thought this because of all of our conversation. She thought that Billy was faking, or at least faking to an extent. I'm not Billy, Luke,
Luke.
right?
Yeah.
She thought that Luke was faking, at least to an extent. Even that night where she like saw his eyes flick to her, she saw him breathing heavy. Like I was waiting for her to bring that up again. What about like when Chrissy made it seem like she didn't know who Billy was, right? When they did like the Chrissy flashback, she's like she saw a man that she hadn't seen in a long time, right? Did she not say that? Am I confused?
He wasn't supposed to be back. So he wasn't, it was 11:20 a.m. He wasn't supposed to be back until that evening. I don't think it said that she hadn't seen him in a long time, but it made it feel like that couldn't have been Billy. So at that point, I was like, was it Billy? Was it Luke? Who
Right.
was? I couldn't figure it out till the very end that it, you know, yeah.
I
was
don't know.
with you.
Yeah, I don't know if we just discussed it in depth and I've thought about it so much, but there was so much that I thought was foreshadowing for what was to come that I just was like, this can't really be the ending. So
Right.
I was super disappointed.
Yes, absolutely. Me too. Big time. There were a couple of things that I wanted you to guys give a thumbs up or thumbs down on. So from the very beginning, this is the biggest question I think is and actually it's in the back of Ashley Flowers' book. It's one of her questions. And so she says, wait, here, I gotta find it. I'm so sorry. Number question. Okay. I see. Okay. Well, January's death obviously had a huge impact on Chrissy and Billy's marriage, and they had problems before that. The underlying factors of her not telling him about who the children's father was led to a huge spin of so many horrible things. So, my question is to you guys, would you, from the very beginning, at her age in 1994, would you have told Billy? She knew because she said her periods. Would you have still done what she did? And if you would have, you'll do a thumbs up. If it's a thumbs down and you would have said, you know, this is Luke's or found another way to have an abortion, whatever it is, thumbs down. Or, yeah, thumbs up if you would have done what she did, thumbs down if you would. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, you would have done what she did, Jameson. Okay, okay. I want to hear about it.
I don't know that I would have done what she did, but I feel like I'm the only one who likes Chrissy.
I don't dislike her.
I get her. When you're 18 years old and you are scared and what you are looking for is a way out.
Yeah.
And at that time in your life, you don't think it's going to matter. Like if he loved you enough to propose to you, you're never going to have to tell him. Like, I don't know that I would have done it until I was in that situation. Like, I was in a situation where I was proposed to and said, I have to get the fuck out of here. Like, I cannot do this. I have to go.
Right.
So I can't say that I would have done what she did, but I understand why she did. Like, I get it, because what if she tells him and because the point of telling him was she wanted an abortion. She wanted to go. She wanted to be a dancer. She tells him and he says, it's not my problem. Then what does she do? Then she's a single unwed mother. She's still poor. She's still in this hick town where everybody's going to judge her.
Right.
I absolutely, in her shoes, would have done exactly what she did.
Do you know why, like from her point of view, since you relate to her, why she chose to tell Billy and not Luke? Is it just the money?
She didn't tell Billy.
No, I mean, like why she went to Billy.
Oh,
instead of Luke.
she was going to ask him for money. I just felt like she was going to ask him for money to have an abortion. He proposed to her, which she was not expecting. And she had to decide that in a matter of seconds, whether she was going to tell him the truth or marry him and be in a position where she didn't have to be poor white trash anymore.
Yeah, I really do feel like that's where she was coming from. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I mean that I don't know that I personally would have done that thing. But in her shoes, that character, yes, I would have absolutely done the same thing she did.
Thank you so much. I'm real curious what everybody's opinion is on this as well. In evidence in this title, the book explores the differences between looking like a good person and being a good person. Based on your own moral compass, do you think that Chrissy was a good person despite all of her lies and actions and how many people she hurt and how many people died because of what she did? So if you think she was a good person, thumbs up. If you think she was a bad person, thumbs down. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So I see some of this going on. Cicely, can you tell me where you are on the fence?
I think she did the best she could with what she had, but the problem is what she had was like not shit.
Yeah.
So she had no resources, she had no education, she had no prospects, she had no support, she was cute. That's what she had going for her.
Right. However, she was in so that gives me a question for all of you that thought that she was a good person or bad person. She had time to develop into a good person. She could have brought this truth out at any point, and she chose not to. Until she realized that Jace didn't murder January, when she was going to talk to him about it. I just feel like she had some opportunity. They were very wealthy. She could have banked some money, saved up some stuff. He said she bought all this makeup and beautiful clothes. I'm torn. I think she did the best she could until she could, but I feel like she made really good person, bad choices. So I will post everything about our next book, what to read to, and who to vote for MVP. And we will do the best attendance wheel spin on our next meeting since it's 9:00. But thank you all so much. I know this book was a tough one. I did not like The Boy Who Followed His Father into Auschwitz. It was very hard for me to read, but this was worse. At least at the end of that, I was like, okay, all right. You can overcome things. This one makes me feel like, okay, so I spent 3 weeks reading about a real piece of crap. So I'm very sorry.
Just watch the news.
We stuck with it. I love you all. Stay well and safe. But her lie did not. Yeah, Billy, you're right, Jameson. It didn't kill anybody. You're right. I love you. Take care. Happy reading. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.